Sutra of Maitreya's Birth and Attainment of Buddhahood. Thus I have heard. At one time the Buddha was staying in the kingdom of Magadha, near the Pasa mountain, where past Buddhas had subjugated the Maras. It was during the summer meditation retreat, when the Buddha was doing walking meditation on the mountaintop with Sariputra, that he spoke in verse. Hearken single-mindedly, in radiant great samadhi, the one with unsurpassed merit will rightfully appear in the world. He will pronounce the true Dharma, and all will be infused with it, like the thirsty drinking sweet nectar. All will swiftly set off on the liberation path. At that time, the Buddha's 4 groups of disciples repaired and leveled the roads. They sprinkled water, swept the streets, and burned incense. A huge multitude, carrying objects of offering, came to the assembly to make offerings to the Tathagata and the Bhiksus. Intently gazing at the Tathagata, they were like filial sons, beholding their father, or like the thirsty longing for a drink of water. In the same way they loved and thought of their Dharma father. With one mind, they all wanted to ask the Dharma king to turn the right Dharma wheel. With their senses undistracted, one by one, their minds flowed toward the Buddha. At that time, bhiksus, bhiksunis, upasakas, and upasikas, as well as gods, dragons, spirits, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kinnaras, maharagas, humans, non-humans, and others, all rose from their seats and circled the Buddha clockwise. Then they each prostrated themselves on the ground, shedding tears before the Buddha. Sariputra, the wise, arranged his robe and bared his right shoulder. Having followed the Buddha, the Dharma king, to turn the wheel of the true Dharma, he was the Buddha's minister, and a great general upholding the Dharma. Out of sympathy for sentient beings, he wanted them to be liberated from the bondage of suffering. Knowing that the Dharma king's mind would be responsive, he said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, just now the Tathagata spoke in verse on the mountaintop, praising the one with the foremost wisdom. This was never mentioned in previous sutras. The minds of this huge multitude are now filled with expectation. They shed tears like heavy rain, hoping to hear the Tathagata speak of the next Buddha, who will open the sweet nectar path, to hear his name, Maitreya, and to hear of his merit, his spiritual power, and his splendid land. Based on what roots of goodness, almsgiving, virtuous conduct, meditation, wisdom, and intellect will one be able to see Maitreya Buddha? With what mindset should one walk the Eightfold Right Path?" When Sariputra asked this question, hundreds of thousands of godsons and innumerable Brahma kings, joining their palms reverently, with one voice said to the Buddha, "We pray that the world-honored one will enable us in a future life to see Maitreya Buddha, the fruition of the greatest Drukwadal among men, the luminous eye of the 3 realms of existence, who will teach great loving kindness and compassion universally to all sentient beings." The 8 classes of Dharma protectors, joining their palms reverently, also made their request to the Tathagata in the same way. Brahma kings and a multitude of Brahma gods, joining their palms, with one voice sang their praise in verse. Namo the full moon, complete with the 10 powers, great leader of energetic progress, valiant and fearless, the one with knowledge of all knowledge, having transcended the three realms of existence, having acquired the three thorough clarities, having subjugated the four maras, his body being a dharma vessel, his mind like open sky, quiet and unmoved, toward existence or no existence, toward non-existence or no non-existence, with perfect understanding of emptiness, one who is praised by the world. With one mind, simultaneously we all take refuge, praying that he will turn the Dharma wheel. Then the world-honored one told Sariputra, I will expound broadly to you. Hearken, hearken, and ponder it well. All of you today, with a truly good intention, want to ask that Tathagata about the unsurpassed way to Mahaprajna, which the Tathagata sees as clearly as a mango in his palm. Sariputra, if one, under the past 7 Buddhas, has heard the names of Buddhas and made obeisance and offerings, one's karma hindrances will all be annihilated. If one has also heard of Maitreya Buddha's great loving kindness, one will achieve a pure mind. You all should join your palms single-mindedly and take refuge in the great loving kind, compassionate one to come. I will expound broadly to you. The land of Maitreya Buddha will be a land of pure life, with no sycophancy or deceit, because he neither embraces nor clings to his achievement of Danaparmitha, Silaparmitha, or Prajnaparmitha. It will be splendid because of his 10 wonderful vows. When sentient beings, drawn by his great loving kindness, invoke their gentle minds, they will see Maitreya Buddha. They will be reborn in this Buddha's land, tame their faculties, and follow his teachings. Sariputra, the surface of each of the 4 great oceans, will be reduced by 3,000 yojanas. Jambudvipa will be 10,000 yojanas in length and width. Its ground will be level and clean, like a crystal mirror. There will be large flowers that suit one's fancy, pleasing flowers, huge fragrant flowers, upal flowers, flowers with large golden petals, flowers with petals made of the 7 treasures, and flowers with silver petals. The stamens of these flowers will be soft, like celestial silk. They will bear auspicious fruits, soft like celestial cotton and full of aroma and flavor. In the forests, there will be abundant wonderful flowers and sweet fruits, surpassing those in the garden favored by the god King Sakra. The trees will be 30 lis in height. The adjacent cities will be only a rooster's flight apart. Those who have planted their roots of goodness under me, the present Buddha, will be reborn in that world as the requital for their practice of loving kindness. They will have wisdom, virtue, joy, and peace as they gratify their 5 desires. They will not have illnesses caused by cold, heat, wind, or fire, nor will they suffer from the 9 afflictions. They will each live 84,000 years, and no one will die a premature death. Their bodies will be 160 feet tall. Every day they will enjoy wonderful peace and bliss, experiencing deep meditation as their instrument of happiness. They will have only 3 troubles. First, need to eat and drink. Second, need to discharge bodily wastes. And third, need to grow old. Women will marry when they are 500 years old. There will be a great city called Katuma, 1,200 yojanas in length and width, 7 yojanas in elevation, and adorned with the 7 treasures. In the city will be magically created towers made of the 7 treasures, and they will be majestic, wonderful, august, and pure. Through the windows will be seen fair maidens, holding nets made with precious gems. These towers will be covered with various treasures as adornment and hung with jeweled bells, the sound of which resembles celestial music. Among the lines of trees made of the 7 treasures will be waterways and fountains, also made of the 7 treasures. The streams in various colors will reflect and highlight one another. Although crisscrossing, they will not obstruct one another. The river banks will be covered with gold dust. The streets and roads will be 12 lis wide, all as fresh as a celestial garden, sprinkled with water and swept clean. There will be a great dragon king called Tarasakan, who has acquired merit and awesome powers. His lake being near the city, his palace, like a tower made of the 7 treasures, will be fully visible from a distance. At each midnight, he will assume human form and fill an auspicious bottle with scented water. He will sprinkle this water to drench the dust until the ground looks as moist as if oiled. When pedestrians walk around, there will be no dust. Because of the merit of the people, everywhere around the streets and alleys, there will be luminous gems mounted on poles, 12 lis in height. Their light, surpassing the sunlight, will reach 80 yojanas in each of the 4 directions. This pure golden light will shine day and night. In comparison, the light of lamps and candles would be like pooled ink. When fragrant winds blow, the luminous gems on the poles will rain down necklaces of jewels, and people will wear them as naturally as if they were enjoying the bliss in the 3rd dhyana. Everywhere there will be gold, silver, jewels, precious gems, and so forth, piled high like mountains. These treasure mountains will radiate light to illuminate the entire city. Whenever touched by this light, people will be happy and activate the Bodhi mind. There will be a great Yaksa called Bhadraprasasaka, who protects the city of Katuma day and night. Followed by the people, he will sprinkle water and sweep the ground clean. The ground will crack open to take in people's waste products and close afterward, and it will grow red lotus flowers to overpower the foul odor. When the people of that world grow old and frail, they will voluntarily go to the mountain forest to sit under a tree. As they keep thinking of Buddhas, they will die peacefully and joyfully, without pretense. After death, most of them will be reborn in great Brahma heaven or in the presence of Buddhas. In that peaceful land, there will be no trouble from bandits or thieves, nor robbing or stealing. The doors in cities and villages will never be closed. Nor will there be any catastrophes of water, fire, weapons, or troops, nor the tribulations of famine or toxins. Taming their faculties, people will live in loving kindness, respect, and harmony. To one another, they will be like a son loving his father, like a mother loving her son. Taught and guided by Maitreya Buddha with loving kindness, they will speak humble words. Those who, in this world, have observed the precept of no killing and no eating flesh will be reborn in that world. Their faculties will be serene, and their features will be even and comely, as awe-inspiring as those of celestial youths. The city of Katuma will be situated in the center of 84,000 small cities made of treasures, which serve as its satellites. Men and women, adults and children, living near or far, Because of the spiritual power of this Buddha, will be able to see one another without any obstacles. Everywhere in that world will be wish-fulfilling jeweled flowers that shine in the night. The sky will rain down flowers made of the 7 treasures. Scattered all over the grounds will be flowers of Padma, Upal, Kamada, Pundarika, Mandarava, Mahamandarava, Manjusaka, and Mahamanjusaka. Some of them, swept up by winds, will whirl in the air. Near the cities and villages of that land, the bathing ponds, fountains, rivers, and lakes in the gardens and forests will naturally have water with the 8 virtues. Singing wonderful melodies will be geese, ducks, mandarin ducks, peacocks, parrots, halcyons, saris, melodious cuckoos, jivajivas, and the quick-sighted birds. Flying and gathering in trees and ponds will be innumerable birds of diverse species, singing wonderful melodies. Blooming day and night, and never wilted, will be golden untainted pure radiance flowers, carefree pure wisdom sunlight flowers, bright white 7-day fragrance flowers, and fragrant Kampaka flowers in 6 colors, as well as a billion kinds of land and water flowers, unmatched in fragrance and purity. The blue colors will gleam with blue light, yellow colors, yellow light, red colors, red light, white colors, white light. There will be trees bearing wish-fulfilling fruits, with their beautiful aroma permeating the land. Among the treasure mountains in that land will be fragrant trees, which will radiate golden light to illuminate everywhere and emit pleasing scents to suffuse everything. There will always be fine fragrance in Jambudvipa, making it like a mountain of fragrance. Streaming waters will be good and sweet, and able to remove troubles. Rainfalls will be timely, and the heavenly fields will ripen aromatic and beautiful crops of grain. Because of the powers of these godlike people, 7 harvests will be reaped from 1 planting. Only a little effort will yield much return. Without weeds or muck, the crops of grains will thrive. As requital for the merit of these sentient beings, grains of 100 flavors, unmatched in aroma, will melt in their mouths, providing them with strength and vitality. In that land will dwell a wheel-turning king named Sankha, endowed with the 32 physical marks. He will have 4 types of armed forces, but he will not rule the 4 continents by military power. This king will have 1,000 sons, who are valiant and majestic, and enemies will naturally submit to them. He will have 7 precious things. First, the golden wheel, complete with the hub, the rim, and 1,000 spokes. Second, the white elephant, white as a snow mountain, a magnificent spectacle as it stands on its 7 limbs like a kingly mountain. Third, the blue horse, with red mane and tail, hoofs made of the 7 treasures, and flowers appearing underneath. Fourth, the divine jewel, clearly visible, more than 2 forearms across, the radiance of which rains down treasures to fulfill sentient beings' wishes. Fifth, exquisite maidens, beautiful, wonderful, and limber as if boneless. Sixth, the treasure minister, whose mouth spits out jewels, from whose feet spring up jewels, and whose hands manifest jewels. Seventh, the military minister, who, by moving his body, can produce from the sky the 4 types of armed forces, like clouds. His 1,000 sons and his people in this kingdom of the 7 treasures will regard one another without any malice, but like a mother loving her son. The princes will take precious treasures and construct in front of the main palace a platform of the 7 treasures. It will be 13 yojanas in height, with 30 decks. Equipped with 1,000 tiller heads and 1,000 wheels, it will move easily. There will be 4 great treasure stores, each surrounded by 4 koti small treasure stores. The great Elapatra treasure store will be in the kingdom of Gandhara, the great Panduka treasure store in the kingdom of Mithila, the great Pingla treasure store in the kingdom of Surasta, and the great Sangha treasure store in the kingdom of Varanasi, near the mountain of ancient Rasis. These 4 great treasure stores, filled with treasures, will be naturally uncovered, each radiating light through a distance of 1,000 yojanas, and each surrounded by 4 koi small treasure stores. There will be 4 great dragons guarding these 4 great treasure stores and their respective small treasure stores, which, shaped like lotus flowers, stand above the ground. Countless multitudes will go to see these treasures, which will not be guarded by humans. When the multitudes see these treasures, their minds will not covet them. They will leave them on the ground, as they would tiles, stones, grasses, trees, and chunks of dirt. When people see them, they will feel disgusted, saying to one another these words, as the Buddha has said, in the past, for the sake of these treasures, sentient beings viciously harmed one another. They stole from and robbed one another, and they lied to and deceived one another, thus multiplying their sin and suffering in Sasra. Then they all fell into enormous hells. Nets made with jewels will hover over the city of Katuma. Jeweled bells, blown by breezes, like bells being struck, will chime harmoniously, expounding taking refuge in the Buddha, taking refuge in the Dharma, and taking refuge in the Sangha. At that time, in the city, there will be a great Brahmin named Brahmayo. His wife Brahmavati, gentle in nature, will also be in the Brahmin caste. To them as parents, Maitreya Bodhisattva will be born. His stay in the womb will be like a visit to a celestial palace, and he will radiate great light, unobstructed by dirt and dust. After he has attained Buddhahood, his body will be purple-tinged golden, complete with the 32 physical marks of a great man. He will be seated on a jeweled lotus flower, and sentient beings will never tire of beholding him. His radiance will be unsurpassed, something gods and humans have never before seen. His strength will be immeasurable. The strength of each section of his body will surpass that of all the powerful dragons and elephants. The inconceivable radiance from his pores will illuminate across infinite space unhindered. The light of the sun, the moon, and the stars, as well as the light of water, fire, and gems, will all become inconspicuous like dust. His height will be 80 times the length of Sakyamuni Buddha's forearm. His chest will be 25 forearms wide. His face will be 12.5 forearms long. His nose will be tall and straight in the center of his face. His appearance will be sublime, complete with the unexcelled marks. Each mark will include 84,000 excellent characteristics, which will adorn him like a golden statue. Each of his excellent characteristics will emit radiance, illuminating a distance of 1,000 yojanas. His eyes, with distinct blue and white parts, will look clear. The permanent light surrounding his body will be hundreds of yojanas across. Clearly illuminated by this Buddha's light will be the sun, the moon, the stars, precious gems, and jewels, as well as lines of trees made of the 7 treasures. All other radiance will be eclipsed. The body of this Buddha will be tall like a golden mountain. Those who see him will naturally be liberated from the 3 evil life journeys. Maitreya Bodhisattva will observe carefully the faults of the 5 desires of the world and pity suffering sentient beings sinking in the long flow of birth and death. Observing suffering, emptiness, and impermanence with the right thoughts, he will not delight in family life, but will consider it as confining as a prison. At that time, King Sangha, accompanied by the ministers and people of his kingdom, will take that platform made of the 7 treasures, together with 1,000 jeweled curtains, 1,000 jeweled carriages, 1,000 kodi jeweled bells, 1,000 jeweled vessels, and 1,000 jeweled urns, and offer them all to Maitreya Bodhisattva. After accepting them, Maitreya Bodhisattva will give them to the Brahmins. The Brahmins will be surprised to see Maitreya Bodhisattva give such enormous alms. They will then break them into pieces and share them. Maitreya Bodhisattva, seeing the evanescence and impermanence of the treasure platform, will know that all Samskrita dharmas will perish. Training himself to remember impermanence, Maitreya Bodhisattva will praise past Buddhas as the cool nectar, with a stanza on impermanence. All processes are impermanent, which are the dharma of birth and death. Having ended birth and death, nirvana is delight. After speaking these stanzas, Maitreya Bodhisattva will renounce family life to learn the way to Buddhahood, and he will sit under the Bodhi tree of dragon flowers in the splendid Vajrabhadamanda. This tree will be 50 yojanas tall, with its branches and leaves spreading all about, radiating great bright light. Its branches will be like a jeweled dragon that spits out hundreds of jeweled flowers. Its petals will be in the colors of the 7 treasures, and its fruits in various colors will be pleasing to sentient beings. No tree in heavens or the human world will compare with this tree. Maitreya Bodhisattva, together with 84,000 Brahmins, will go to this Bodhima. To renounce family life and to learn the way, he will shave off his own hair. He will renounce family life in the morning and, that evening, will subjugate the 4 kinds of maras and attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. He will then speak in verse, long thinking of the suffering of sentient beings, and wanting to rescue them. I was unable to do so. Today I have attained Bodhi. Suddenly, obstructions are no more. I have verified the emptiness of sentient beings, and the true reality of their original nature. My sorrow and suffering nevermore, my loving kindness and compassion are unconditional. For the sake of rescuing you all, I have given to innumerable people my kingdom, my head, my eyes, my hands, my feet, and my wife. Beginning today are my liberation, and the unsurpassed great silence and stillness. I will expound them to you all, and widely open the sweet nectar way. Such fruition of great reward is all born from perfection in the 6 paramithas, such as almsgiving, observing precepts, and developing wisdom, and is acquired from great loving kindness and compassion as well as from untainted merit. Having spoken these stanzas, Maitreya Buddha will remain silent. Then, God kings, dragon kings, and spirit kings, without revealing themselves, will rain down flowers as offerings to this Buddha. The 3,000 large thousand-fold world will quake in 6 different ways. This Buddha's body will emit light, illuminating innumerable lands. Those who can be delivered will see this Buddha. At that time, in the Flower Grove Garden, the God King Sakradevanamindra, the 4 God Kings, who protect the world, the great Brahma Kings, and innumerable godsons will bow their heads down at the feet of this Buddha. Joining their palms, they will ask him to turn the Dharma wheel. Maitreya Buddha will grant their request in silence. He will tell the Brahma Kings, in the long night, I have undergone tremendous suffering and practiced the 6 paramithas. Finally, I have today fully revealed the Dharma ocean. To pronounce the Dharma to you all, I will rightfully erect the Dharma banner, beat the Dharma drum, blow the Dharma conch shell, and rain down the Dharma rain. Gods and humans cannot turn the Dharma wheel of the Eightfold Right Path, which can be turned only by Buddhas. This path is impartial, and it leads straight to the unsurpassed silence and stillness of that which is a Samskrita. It can enable sentient beings to end their suffering in the long night. This Dharma is so profound that it is hard to obtain, hard to enter, hard to believe, and hard to understand. No one in the world can know it or see it. However, through it, one can cleanse one's mental defilements and accomplish myriads of Brahma actions. As these words are being said, from other worlds, billions of kois of godsons, goddess daughters, and great Brahma kings, riding their celestial palaces, will come. Carrying celestial flowers, they will offer them to this Tathagata and circle him 100,000 times. They will prostrate themselves on the ground and, joining their palms, they too will implore this Buddha. The celestial music sounding without being played, the Brahma kings will speak with one voice in verse. Without a Buddha, innumerable, countless years have passed in waste, and sentient beings have gone down the evil life paths. When the eye of the world is gone, the 3 evil life paths will widen and expand, and the road to heaven will be blocked. Today a Buddha has appeared in the world. The 3 evil life paths will be annihilated, and the multitude of gods and humans will increase. We pray that he will open the sweet nectar door, enabling the minds of sentient beings not to cling, but to attain nirvana quickly. We, the Brahma kings, have heard that a Buddha has appeared in the world. Because we now have encountered a Buddha, the supreme Dharma king, the palaces in Brahma heavens are grander, and the light of our bodies becomes brighter. For the sake of all multitudes, in worlds, in the 10 directions, we implore the great guiding teacher, praying that he will open the sweet nectar door and turn the unsurpassed Dharma wheel. Having spoken these stanzas, they will again bow their heads to the ground. Joining their palms, 3 times they will implore earnestly, we pray only that the world-honored one will turn the profound true Dharma wheel to remove the roots of suffering of sentient beings, enabling them to discard their 3 poisons and evil karmas, and to break away from the 4 evil life paths. Then Maitreya, the world-honored one, will smile and emit light in 5 colors, silently granting the Brahma king's request. Having perceived this Buddha's approval, the godsons, and the innumerable multitudes will be so exultant that they feel exuberant all over their bodies. The joy of the multitudes will be like that of filial sons who find their deceased loving father suddenly coming back to life. The multitude of gods will circle the world-honored one clockwise countless times. With tireless reverence and adoration, they will step back to stand on one side. The huge multitude will think, although we can enjoy the pleasures of the 5 desires for 1,000 Koti years, we cannot avoid the suffering of the 3 evil life paths. Wives and riches cannot save us from this fate. The world is impermanent and life will not last for long. We should train purely in the Brahma way, in the Buddha Dharma. They will then think, our gratification of the 5 desires, lasting even as long as the lifespan of gods in no perception heaven, which goes on for innumerable kalpas, and our enjoyment of the fine and smooth tactile sensations, when making merry with beautiful goddesses, will come to an end. Then we will go down the 3 evil life paths to undergo immeasurable suffering. The pleasures are small and illusory, not worth mentioning. When we enter into hell, the enormous fire will be horrendously ablaze. It will be hard to be released from the 1,000,000 Koti kalpas of immeasurable suffering. It will be hard to escape from the tribulations in the long night. Today we have encountered the Buddha, and we should strive to make energetic progress. Then King Sangha will chant aloud in verse, the pleasures of life in heaven will eventually come to an end. Before long will come a fall into hell, which is like a pile of raging fire. We should take quick action to renounce family life and learn the Buddha way. Having spoken these words, Sangha the wheel-turning king, surrounded reverently by 84,000 great ministers and escorted by the 4 god kings, will go to the flower grove garden. Under the dragon flower tree, he will ask Maitreya Buddha for permission to renounce family life, and he will make obeisance to this Buddha. Before he raises his head, his hair and beard will fall off by themselves, and he will be dressed in a monk's robe, becoming a Rama. At that time Maitreya Buddha, together with the King Sangha, surrounded reverently by 84,000 great ministers as well as bhiksus and innumerable dharma protectors in the 8 classes, such as gods and dragons, will enter into the city of Ketuma. As soon as he steps over the threshold of the gate, the Saha world will quake in 6 different ways. The ground of Jambudvipa will turn golden. The ground in the center of the great city of Ketuma will be made of Vajra. From the ground will naturally rise lines of jeweled trees and the jeweled Vajra throne, upon which past Buddhas have sat. From the sky, gods will shower enormous jeweled flowers. As an offering to this Buddha, dragon kings will play music, spit flowers from their mouths, and rain flowers from their pores. This Buddha will be seated on this throne to turn the wheel of the true Dharma. He will pronounce the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of accumulation of afflictions, the noble truth of cessation of suffering, and the noble truth of the path. He will also expound the 37 elements of Bodhi. He will also pronounce the 12 links of dependent arising. Conditioned upon ignorance are karmic actions. Conditioned upon karmic actions is alaya, consciousness. Conditioned upon alaya, consciousness are name and form. Conditioned upon name and form are the 6 faculties. Conditioned upon the 6 faculties is contact with sense objects. Conditioned upon contact with sense objects is sensory reception. Conditioned upon sensory reception is love. Conditioned upon love is grasping. Conditioned upon grasping is the karmic force for being conditioned. Upon the karmic force for being is birth, and conditioned upon birth are old age and death. Thus, one continues this cycle with anxiety, sorrow, pain, and distress. Then the earth will quake in 6 different ways. The sound will be heard across the 3,000 large 1,000-fold world and even innumerable, boundless worlds, from each hell at the bottom to each Kaniha heaven at the top. The 4 God Kings, each leading innumerable ghosts and spirits, will chant loudly. When the Buddha's sun rises, the Dharma rain will fall. The eye of the world has opened today. Let the 8 classes of Dharma protectors of the great earth, who are ready for the Buddha, all hear and know this. The gods in the 33 heavens, Yama heaven, Tusita heaven, Nirmanarathi heaven, Paranirmadavasavartan heaven, and even great Brahma heaven will chant loudly in their respective places. When the Buddha's sun rises, the sweet nectar falls. The eye of the world has opened today. Let all who are ready hear and know this. At that time, the 8 classes of Dharma protectors, such as gods and dragons, as well as the spirits of mountains, trees, medicinal herbs, water, fire, earth, cities, dwellings, and so forth, joyful and exuberant, will also chant loudly. In addition, 84,000 Brahmins, intelligent and wise, following great King Sankha, will renounce family life to learn the way in the Buddha Dharma. An elder named Siddhartha, who is none other than the elder Siddhartha today, together with 84,000 people, will also renounce family life. 2 brothers named Siddhartha and Purana, together with 84,000 people, will also renounce family life. 2 great ministers named Brahmadamali and Sumana, valued by the king, together with 84,000 people, will also renounce family life to learn the way in the Buddha Dharma. Samavati, the wheel-turning king's precious daughter, who is none other than Lady Visakha today, together with 84,000 fair ladies, will also renounce family life. Sky golden color, the King Sankha's crown prince, who is none other than the son of the elder Devavana today, together with 84,000 people, will also renounce family life. Sumti, the son of a Brahmin related to Maitreya Buddha, who is none other than the son of the Bhikshuni Kattarapatra today, together with 84,000 people, will also renounce family life. Only one of the 1,000 sons of King Sankha will be reserved for succeeding to the throne. His other 999 sons, together with 84,000 people, will all renounce family life in order to be in the Buddha Dharma. Countless multitudes such as these, seeing the suffering in the world and the blazing force of the 5 aggregates, will all renounce family life in order to be in the Dharma of Maitreya Buddha. Then, with the mind of great loving kindness, Maitreya Buddha will speak these words to the multitude: "You now have come to me, not seeking the pleasures of this life or of the next life in heaven, but the conditions for the eternal bliss of nirvana. You have already planted your roots of goodness in the Buddha Dharma." When Sakyamuni Buddha appeared in the world of the 5 turbidities, he rebuked you variously, expounded the Dharma to you, and taught you to plant the conditions for the future so that you would see me. I will accept all of you. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit, whether by reading and reciting the Tripitaka, the Sutras, the Vinaya, and the Abhidharma, by praising their tenets and expounding them to others, or by, without jealousy, teaching and enabling others to accept and uphold the Dharma. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by giving others food and clothing, observing the precepts, and developing wisdom. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by offering Buddha's music, canopies, flowers, incense, and bright lamps. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by offering food regularly to sagas, erecting monks' living quarters, providing monks with the 4 necessities, or observing the 8 precepts regularly for purification and for cultivation of loving kindness. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by invoking profound compassion for sentient beings in suffering and by personally bearing their suffering to give them happiness. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by observing their precepts, enduring adversities, and developing the pure mind of loving kindness. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by building temples or offering food to the monks who came from everywhere to attend Dharma assemblies. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by observing their precepts, hearing much of the Dharma, practicing meditation, and developing affliction-free wisdom. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by erecting pagodas, making offerings to holy relics, or thinking of the Dharma body of Buddhas. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by rescuing and liberating people in hardship, poverty, solitude, or bondage to others, people about to be tortured or executed by the law, or people in tremendous suffering because of their tribulation of the 8 difficulties. Among you, there are those who have been reborn in the place where I am, because they have acquired merit by skillfully bringing to union and harmony people in tremendous suffering because of love, separation, faction, or dispute. Having spoken these words, Maitreya Buddha will praise me, Sakyamuni Buddha, very good. Very good. He was able to teach and transform, in the world of the 5 turbidities, 1 billion Koti evil sentient beings, enabling them to develop their roots of goodness and to be reborn in the place where I am. Maitreya Buddha will repeat 3 times his praise of Sakyamuni Buddha, then speak in verse, the great guiding teacher, enduring adversities and boldly valiant, was able to teach and transform evil sentient beings, and bring them to maturity in the evil world of the 5 turbidities, enabling them to train themselves and to see the next Buddha. Enduring enormous suffering and carrying sentient beings, for them to enter the eternal bliss of that which is a samskrita, he advised his disciples to come to the place where I am. To glorify nirvana, I now will pronounce to you the 4 noble truths, as well as the 37 elements of Bodhi and the 12 links of dependent arising. You all should observe that which is a samskrita and enter the state of silent emptiness. Having spoken these stanzas, Maitreya Buddha will also praise those who were able to achieve difficult things in the painful evil world. He will say, "You observed your precepts and did meritorious karmas among people who were greedy, angry, deluded, confused, and short-lived. That is exceptional." During those times, sentient beings did not appreciate their parents, nor Ramas or Brahmins. Not knowing the Bodhi way, they harassed and harmed one another, resorting to violence and war. Deeply addicted to the 5 desires, they were jealous and sycophantic. Deceitful, sinister, and pitiless, they killed, ate flesh, and drank blood. They had no respect for teachers or elders, and they did not know beneficent friends. They did not know such things as requiting kindness. Born into the world of the 5 turbidities, they had no sense of shame or dishonor. Day and night in the 6 periods, they continually did evil karmas, such as the 5 rebellious acts, not knowing when to stop. They gathered evils like densely arranged fish scales, never feeling disgusted. Clans and even 9 branches of family could not help one another. Very good. Very good. Sakyamuni Buddha, with great skillfulness and wisdom, out of profound loving kindness and compassion, was able to speak honest words in a gentle and pleasant manner to suffering sentient beings, announcing that I will deliver all of them. Such a guiding teacher who has illuminating wisdom is a rarity in the world and hard to encounter. Deeply pitying sentient beings in the evil world, he wanted to eradicate their suffering, give them peace and joy, and guide them into the highest meaning of profound Dharma nature. In 3 Asamkhya Kalpas, Sakyamuni Buddha, for your sake, trained in difficult ways and ascetic practices, enduring suffering as he gave away his head as alms and cut off his ears, nose, hands, and feet. To benefit you, he took the 8-fold right path and achieved total liberation. In this way, Maitreya Buddha will guide and comfort innumerable sentient beings, making them happy. They will be imbued with the Dharma. Their minds will be full of the Dharma, and their mouths will always pronounce the Dharma. The population will be composed of those who have merit and wisdom. Even gods will respect, trust, and admire them. At that time, the great guiding teacher Maitreya Buddha will want them to hear about their suffering in the past. He will think, the 5 impure desires are the roots of suffering, but the knowledge that pain and pleasure are both impermanent can remove their anxieties and sorrows. He will then pronounce to them the 5 aggregates: form, sensory reception, perception, mental processing, and consciousness, as well as suffering, emptiness, impermanence, and no self. As he speaks these words, 96 Koti people will no longer embrace the dharmas, perceived by the senses. With no more afflictions to discharge, having liberated their minds, they will attain arhatship, complete with the 3 clarities, the 6 transcendental powers, and the 8 liberations. In all, 36,000 godsons and 20,000 goddess daughters will activate the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi mind. Among the 8 classes of Dharma protectors, such as gods and dragons, some will become Srotapannas, entering the holy stream, and others will plant the conditions for going the Pratyabhadita way. The number of those who will activate the unsurpassed Bodhi mind will be beyond reckoning. Then Maitreya Buddha, together with 96 Koti great bhikkhus and King Sankha, who is surrounded by 84,000 great ministers, bhiksus, and retinues, like the son of the moon god encircled by stars, will set off from the city of Ketuma and return to the flower grove garden. Elders and the lesser kings in the cities and settlements in Jambudvipa, as well as those in the 4 castes, will gather under the dragon flower tree in the flower grove garden. In this second great assembly, Maitreya, the world-honored one, will again pronounce the 4 noble truths and the 12 links of dependent arising. Then 94 Koti people will attain arhatship. Gods from other worlds, the 8 classes of Dharma protectors, and others, as numerous as the sands of 64 Koi Ganges rivers, will activate the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi mind, standing firm at the spiritual level of no regress. In the third great assembly, Maitreya Buddha will again pronounce the 4 noble truths, turning the profound wonderful Dharma wheel. Then 92 Koti people will attain arhatship, and 34 Koti Dharma protectors in the 8 classes, such as gods and dragons, will activate the Sambodhi mind. Having delivered these gods and humans, Maitreya Buddha will lead his voice-hearer disciples and the 8 classes of Dharma protectors, such as gods and dragons, together with the multitudes, and enter the city of Ketuma to beg for food. Innumerable gods from pure abode heavens will reverently follow this Buddha into the city. Upon entering the city, this Buddha will demonstrate his spiritual powers with 18 transformations. Water will manifest below his body, like precious gems, then transform into a plateau of light, illuminating worlds in the 10 directions. Fire will manifest above his body, radiating purple-tinged golden light as vast as Mount Sumeru. He will appear enormous, filling the sky, then transform into aquamarine. He will appear minuscule, like a mustard seed, then vanish. He will rise in the 10 directions, then vanish in the 10 directions. He will make all humans to have bodies like a Buddha's body. He will perform innumerable manifestations, using various kinds of spiritual powers, and viewers in the right conditions will all be liberated. The God King Sakradevanamindra, his 32 ministers, gods from the desire realm, Brahma kings, and Brahma gods from the form realm, together with godsons and goddess daughters, will remove their celestial necklaces and robes, and scatter them over this Buddha, which will change into a canopy of flowers. Celestial music will sound without being played, hymning the merit of this Buddha. As an offering to this Buddha, celestial flowers and various sandalwood scents will rain profusely down from the sky. Banners will be erected on streets and roads. Choice incense will burn, its smoke resembling clouds. When Maitreya, the world-honored one, enters the city, the God King from great Brahma heaven and the God King Sakradevanamindra will reverently join their palms and praise this Buddha in verse. The Samyak Sambuddha, the 2-footed honored one, in heaven and on earth, no one can compare. The world-honored one with the 10 powers is unique. He is the unsurpassed supreme fortune field. Those who make offerings to him will be reborn in heaven, and in the future will be liberated and abide in nirvana. Obeisance to the unsurpassed great attainment. Obeisance to the great guiding teacher with the mind of loving kindness. The four god kings, Dhritarashtra in the east, Virudaka in the south, Virupaksha in the west, and Vaisravana in the north, together with their retinues, joining their palms reverently, with a pure mind, will praise the world-honored one in verse. No one living in the three realms can compare with the one adorned with great compassion, who has realized and understood the highest truth. He has penetrated the nature of sentient beings and the appearances of all dharmas, seeing both abiding in the nature of emptiness. Standing firm in his realization of emptiness, he diligently makes energetic progress, yet nothing made through conditions, no footprints left behind. I now make obeisance to the great guiding teacher with the mind of loving kindness. When sentient beings do not see a Buddha, they undergo birth and death in the long night, going down the three evil life paths, or assuming female form. Today a Buddha has appeared in the world, who will end suffering and give peace and joy. The population on the three evil life paths will decrease, and women will no longer depend on flattery or deception. All evil ways of life will come to rest. Having attained the great nirvana, the one who will relieve suffering with great compassion, to delight all, has appeared in the world. When he was a bodhisattva, he always gave others all the joy, never killing or distressing others. And his tolerance is like that of the great earth. I now make obeisance to the great guiding teacher who has endured all adversities. I now make obeisance to the great man who is loving, kind, and compassionate. Having transcended the suffering of birth and death, he can rescue sentient beings from tribulations. Like a lotus flower born from fire, he is unequaled in the world. At that time, Maitreya, the world-honored one, will beg for food from one door to the next. Then he will lead the bhikshus to the original place, where he will enter deep samadhi, not moving for 7 days and 7 nights. Maitreya Buddha's disciples will be stately in appearance, like the forms of gods, and they will all be tired of birth, old age, illness, and death. They will all hear much of the Dharma, study and guard the Dharma store, and practice meditative concentration. They will all succeed in abandoning desires, like a bird leaving the eggshell. The God King Sakradevanamindra, together with godsons from the desire realm, joyful and exuberant, will speak in verse, the great guiding teacher, the refuge of the world. His wisdom eye clearly sees all, in worlds, in the 10 directions. He surpasses gods in merit and wisdom. With the right name and meaning, he benefits sentient beings. May we, beginners, who are like sprouts, together with his disciples, go to that mountain to make offerings to Sakyamuni Buddha's disciple, who was foremost in the Buddha way of life. We should see the Dharma robe worn by the past Buddha, and hear the Dharma he has bequeathed. For the evil karma in our past lives and the turbid evil kalpa, we need to repent in order to be purified. Then Maitreya Buddha, together with his great disciples and sentient beings that were headstrong in their past lives in the Saha world, will go to the Drakta mountain. Having arrived at its foot, they will serenely walk up the Wolf Track mountain. After they have reached the summit, Maitreya Buddha will touch the ground with his big toe. Forthwith, the great earth will move in 18 different ways. Then Maitreya Buddha will split the cliff with both hands, like a wheel-turning king opening the gate of a great city, to find Mahakassapa inside. Then the Brahma kings will pour scented oil onto the crown of Mahakassapa's head and over his body. Next, they will beat the great Dharma instruments and blow the great Dharma conch shells. Mahakassapa will then rise from the samadhi of total halt. He will straighten his robe, bare his right shoulder, kneel on his right knee, and join his palms. Kneeling on both knees, he will hold the Dharma robe worn by Sakyamuni Buddha and offer it to Maitreya Buddha, saying these words: "The great teacher Sakyamuni, the Tathagata, Arhat, Samyaksambuddha, upon his parinirva, entrusted me with his Dharma robe and commanded me to offer it to the world-honored one." Meanwhile, everyone in the multitudes will ask Maitreya Buddha, "Why on this mountaintop today is a human-headed worm, puny, ugly, and dressed in the Shramana's habit, able to pay homage and make obeisance to the world-honored one?" Then Maitreya Buddha will rebuke his great disciples. He will speak in verse, telling them not to disdain this person. The peacock has beautiful colors, but it can be eaten by the eagle. The white elephant has infinite strength, but the lion's son, though young, can grab and eat it like dirt. The great dragon has an enormous body, but it can be snatched by the golden-winged Garuda. The tall and large human body, plump, white, and handsome, is like a vessel made of the 7 treasures, but filled with feces. Its filth is unbearable. This person, though puny, has wisdom like refined gold. Having long ended his afflictions and habits, with nothing left of the suffering of birth and death, for protecting the Dharma, he has stayed here. Most victorious among gods and humans, he has always carried out the Buddha way of life. Unequaled in ascetic training, Sakyamuni, the 2-footed honored one, has sent him to me. You all should join your palms with a single mind and reverently make obeisance to him. Having spoken these stanzas, Maitreya Buddha will tell the bhiksus, Sakyamuni the world-honored one has taught and transformed sentient beings in the world of the 5 turbidities. Among his 1,250 disciples, there was one with a golden body, who was foremost in the Buddha way of life. To learn the way, he renounced family life and left his golden wife. Day and night, he progressed energetically, as if fighting a fire burning on his head. He was loving, kind, and compassionate to sentient beings that were poor and lowly, and always wanted to deliver them. For the sake of the Dharma, he has remained in the world. This person is none other than Mahakassapa. Having heard these words, the multitude will all make obeisance to him. Then Maitreya Buddha will use Sakyamuni Buddha's Dharma robe to cover his right hand, but it will cover only 2 of his fingers. Then he will use it to cover his left hand, but again it will cover only 2 of his fingers. The multitude, astonished by the tiny size of the past Buddha, will understand that it was caused by sentient beings' greed and arrogance. Maitreya Buddha will tell Mahakassapa, "Now you can demonstrate your spiritual powers and pronounce all the sutras of the past Buddha." Then Mahakassapa will jump up into the sky and display 18 transformations. He will manifest an enormous body, filling the sky. This huge body will transform into a tiny one, like a grass seed. Water will manifest above his body, and fire will appear under his body. He will walk on the ground as if it were water, then walk on water as if it were ground. He will sit or lie down in the sky, not falling to the ground. He will appear in the east but vanish in the west, then appear in the west but vanish in the east. He will appear in the south but vanish in the north, then appear in the north but vanish in the south. He will appear at the edge but vanish in the center, then appear in the center but vanish at the edge. He will appear above but vanish below, then appear below but vanish above. He will turn into an aquamarine grotto in the sky. By virtue of the spiritual power of this Buddha, he will pronounce with the Brahma tone Sakyamuni Buddha's sutras in the 12 categories. When the multitude hear the teachings, they will marvel at them as something that never existed before. Then 80 Koti people will eradicate their afflictions, becoming arhats. They will remain in the midst of dharmas, of perceptions, but no longer embrace them. Innumerable gods and humans will activate the Bodhi mind. Mahakassapa will descend from the sky and circle Maitreya Buddha 3 times. He will make obeisance to this Buddha and state that all Samskrita dharmas are impermanent. He will say farewell to him and return to the place in the Gridharkuta mountain where he has been. Fire will burst from his body, and he will enter parinirva. Then his relics will be collected, and a pagoda will be erected on the mountain top to enshrine his relics. Maitreya Buddha will again praise him. Sakyamuni Buddha, in the midst of the multitude, always praised the Bhikkhu Mahakassapa, saying that he was foremost in the Dutta way of life and was accomplished in meditation and the liberation samadhi. This person, although he had great transcendental powers, was never haughty. Always pitying sentient beings in poverty and squalor, he was able to give them great joy. Maitreya Buddha will extol Mahakassapa's relics, saying, "Very good." Mahakassapa, the great disciple of the Sakya lion of great merit, was able to train his mind in that evil world. At that time, the relics of Mahakassapa will appear in apparition and speak in verse. The Dutta practice is a treasury store. Observing the precepts is sweet nectar. One who can carry out the Dutta way of life will definitely arrive at the ground of no death. One who observes one's precepts will be reborn in heaven and in the bliss of nirvana. After speaking this stanza, the vision of Mahakassapa, like liquid aquamarine, will return into the pagoda. The place where Maitreya Buddha will pronounce the Dharma will be 100 yojanas long and 80 yojanas wide. Each person in the multitude, whether sitting or standing, near or far, will see this Buddha pronounce the Dharma to him alone. Maitreya Buddha will remain in the world for 60 Koti years and, out of sympathy for sentient beings, he will enable them to acquire the Dharma. After his parinirvana, gods and humans will cremate his body, and the wheel-turning king will collect the relics and enshrine them in 84,000 pagodas on the 4 continents. The true Dharma will remain in the world for 60,000 years, followed by the Dharma likeness for another 60,000 years. All of you should progress diligently, invoking your pure minds to do good karmas. Then there is no doubt that you will see Maitreya Buddha, the luminous lamp of the world. After the Buddha finished these words, the Venerable Sariputra and the Venerable Ananda rose from their seats, made obeisance to the Buddha, and knelt on their right knees. Joining their palms, they asked the Buddha, World-Honored One, what is the name of this sutra? How should we uphold it? The Buddha told Ananda, you should remember it well and expound it separately to all gods and humans. Do not be the person who will finally terminate the Dharma. The tenet of this Dharma is that all sentient beings should end the 5 rebellious acts, annihilate the hindrances caused by afflictions, karmas, and requitals, and cultivate the mind of loving kindness, in order to walk with Maitreya Buddha. Accept and uphold it as such. This sutra is also called All Sentient Beings, by hearing Maitreya Buddha's name, definitely avoiding the world of the 5 turbidities and not going down the evil life paths, accept and uphold it as such. It is also called the certainty of seeing Maitreya Buddha, by ending one's evil voice karma, with a mind like the lotus flower. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called the mind of loving kindness, no killing and no eating flesh. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called Sakyamuni Buddha's Dharma robe as the testament of trust. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called definite avoidance of the 8 difficulties by hearing a Buddha's name. Accept and uphold it as such. It is also called Maitreya Bodhisattva's attainment of Buddhahood. Accept and uphold it as such. The Buddha told Sariputra, after my parinirvana, if, among bhiksus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and upasikas, as well as the 8 classes of Dharma protectors, such as gods, dragons, and spirits, there are those who, having heard this sutra, accept and uphold it, read and recite it, and make obeisance and offerings to it, as well as respect Dharma masters, they will annihilate their 3 kinds of hindrances, afflictions, karmas, and requitals. They will definitely see Maitreya Buddha and the rest of the 1,000 Buddhas of this worthy kalpa. They will attain one of the 3 kinds of bodhi according their wish. They will not be reborn in female form. They will renounce family life with the right views and achieve the great liberation. Having heard the Buddha's words, the multitude greatly rejoiced. All made obeisance to the Buddha and departed.